So we're gonna do something different for this video. I usually have a script for these reviews, but I just don't have a lot of time. I have a lot of work to do. So I'm just gonna go off the cuff here. I do have some bullet points that I'm going to go through, but I'm gonna try this type of style and see if I can just roll with it. If you happen to like this type of style, just give this video a like. It lets me know that you guys want more of this type of review. It's something less formal and it's more straightforward. So Yumi is a column nuke unit. She's a mix between being pure damage and also being a dot unit. She comes out to 600% skill damage with a 100% dot that is stackable up to 99 times. Right now in the game, there's no way we're reaching 99. The highest we can reach is maybe 60 in guild rates. Still, 60 is pretty high because that amounts to a 1200% dot. Still, Yumi will reach a point where she is literally doing the most amount of damage in the game with no one being able to reach that, not even close. Before going any further, I know some people were confused on my previous videos where I threw out these numbers, but they're not really sure where I'm getting them from, because they look at the skill descriptions and they see that the numbers don't match up. This is because I'm adding on chain stacking. Chains add a 10% damage increase. So for instance, if you're doing 5 hits within your attack, you're adding on 50% total. The first hit is giving you 10%, the second hit is giving you 20%, third hit is giving you 30%, and so on. So in a way, this means multi-hit attacks are going to be stronger than just one really big hit. And this is the case most of the time. This has only changed recently because of Beach Angel Therese. Beach Angel Therese did actually change the game entirely, because now you do want units that actually deal small number of hits. That way the entire team can use her absurdly large damage multiplier. I'll put a link to a damage calculator in the description. That way you guys can play around with that and see how all of the numbers add up. Going back to Yumi, her damage is fine. I only say fine because she's a column nuker. But within that category, nearly every other column nuker deals a lot more damage on the first turn. So that's Narthis, Nabris, Michaela, and somewhat Morphia. They all do more damage than her within neutral situations. And Morphia herself is Yumi's biggest competition because Morphia does so much more than just being a column nuker. As for Nabris, I definitely need to make a follow-up video for her because she kind of just shits on everyone in the collab, to be completely honest. And I definitely feel I was way too hard on her. I had a very wrong prediction on how this would all turn out. So I do need to make a follow-up video for Nabris just to explain and revise my review on her, because I've been using Nabris way more than just about everyone else in this collab. So I'm just going to go ahead and rip the band-aid off. Yumi is mid as hell in just about every other mode except for guild raids and fiend hunts. She's actually pretty good in Last Night, but Last Night is such a small portion of the game that I don't value that as high in my review. I don't think I'm saying anything groundbreaking when I say that she's very mid in all of the general PvE modes, especially in towers. Unless you're simping very hard for Yumi, you're probably not going to use her for any of those modes. I would say you're even better off just using Shara, just because she has her multiple costumes and makes her much more versatile. And if you have Morphia, just use her. She's just way better for those modes. And then we go into the physical side, and that gives you Gamer, Rafina, and Sylvia. And both of them are just way better at general PvE content. So really, when we're looking at Yumi, we're honestly just looking at how well she does in Fiend Hunts and Guild Raids. So I just want to preface this by first talking about Yozakura. For the most part, a lot of you understood what I meant when talking about Yozakura and why I gave her a 5 out of 10 in the previous video. But a very, very, very small amount of you really disagreed with that. And a lot of that is because of how her performance was in Fiend Hunt for that last week. This comes for a very large misunderstanding of how Fiend Hunts are actually tailored. Literally every single Fiend Hunt is tailored towards the units that are coming out. That way they look more attractive. This is a very, very, very common tactic for a lot of gacha games. For the last Fiend Hunt, there was only one weakness point, and that was so Hikage can be a lot more useful. So the way how Fiend Hunters actually work is that there are weak points, and these weak points give you a damage multiplier. This multipliers vary between Fiend Hunt to Fiend Hunt. They literally just change it to whatever number they want. So it can be anywhere from double damage to literally giving like 900% damage increase. And for that Fiend Hunt in particular, it was tailored at a 400% damage increase. So Hikage was shredding the hell out of this Fiend Hunt, and so was Yozakura. So when looking at that stuff, of course Yozakura is going to do a lot better at that Fiend Hunt because it's tailored towards her. But what happens if you give a weakness pattern that doesn't tailor towards her needs? There's been plenty of Fiend Hunts where their weakness tiles are not at melee range. So there will be times where Yozakura and Hikage is going to need Zenith to actually guide them to the weakness tile. That makes them a lot less attractive. And I just want to take a moment to just talk about damage in general. A lot of people, even veterans, they tend to just stare at the numbers and say, oh, this unit is good because their damage numbers are really, really high, without actually taking into all the nuances of the game. Yes, the damage numbers can be high, but what if they don't have the range to cover everything? This is what causes them to be not a primary attacker, but a secondary attacker. That's why you need someone like Dolly, who actually does deal damage at a very wide area in order to clean everything up. This is why Yumi has such a high score, in my view, because she's able to cover a lot of range, and she also has very good damage. Out of all the collab units, Yumi has the most relevance in normal PvE content, and she's not terrible in Fiend Hunts and guild raids either. I say all of this to build up to what I'm going to say about Yumi right now, and it's that she doesn't have this problem. I'm going to spare you the math, but Yumi should always be pretty good for future Fiend Hunts. This one is specifically tailored towards her, and as a result, her damage is extremely inflated. But when you look at the numbers and how high you can get her dots to be, Yumi should always be relevant for any Fiend Hunt that is within her season. This is even accounted for her not being able to hit all weakness tiles. For example, let's say the weakness tiles are horizontal instead of vertical. If you compare her to Sylvia and Morphia, who are able to hit those horizontal weakness tiles, Yumi will still be comparable to those two units. This is even doubly so for guild raids, since you have over 20 turns. The longer the fight drags on, the more powerful Yumi's dots become. But I must stress that if the dots break at any point, Yumi's damage falls off a cliff. So it largely depends on how the bosses are designed. If it ever gets to any point where you cannot hold up the dots, then Yumi is not worth using for that guild raid or Fiend Hunt. Still, she is very mid everywhere else. This is why I'm putting her at a 7 out of 10 score. It's not like she's bad. This is why I keep saying mid, but there's just a wide array of units that are much more versatile than she is. And I think a lot of people forget that these reviews are based on general overall account value, not just one mode. The only reason why Hikage has an 8 out of 10 is because she is a game changer for last night. She's a game changer for Fiend Hunts, and she's a game changer for guild raids. You potentially even want to use her in raids that are not even her elements because she is able to provide so much damage. Yumi is just not at that level of value overall. And we also have to keep in mind that these units are collab units. They will not have a chance of getting any better in the future. So what we have is what we have. Relevancy and power creep becomes a lot more important. So units like Hikage and Yumi will have a lot more staying power because of how unique they are. Overall, I think the dev team should reconsider how they work their collab units. I want to say the Mukosho Tensei collab was a lot better in terms of unit relevancy and giving us good units in general. Roxy and Airs have a lot more staying power because they get 2 costumes, which makes them a lot more versatile. Having 4 collab units that are separate from each other, it just makes them a lot more weaker overall. So I hope for the collabs going forward, we go back to the 2 unit formats so that they can both get 2 costumes. I think that one is just overall better and healthier for the game. Anyway, I'm going to start writing my apology to Nabris.